All right, welcome back. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing The Ferguson Rifle by Louis L'Amour. I got two copies here. You know, we always review the covers first. I love graphic design. I love illustration. So let's take a look at these covers. This is the original copy of the book that I got when I was a kid. Back in the 80s, this is the version that I read. I love this painting of this mountain scene. And then the new version has a nice painting by Greg Manches of sort of a colonial soldier. One of the things about this story is it's book number 2 in Louis L'Amour's Chantry series. You know, he wrote the Sackett saga, which has 17 books, and I've got them right here. He wrote the Sackett saga, which started back in England. You know, like the first few books, characters start in England, and then they move to Revolutionary War time America, and then they Civil War time, and they kind of go all the way to the Old West. It's like a saga of a family. It's much like John Jake's The Bastard series. Well, Louis L'Amour wrote those earlier in his career, and then he wanted to do it again with the Chantry series, and where he wanted to follow the same formula, follow another family from England into America through the Civil and do another big, huge, epic family saga. Well, he only got 5 books into the saga before he passed away. So you saw me review Fair Blows the Wind last week. Now I am to book number 2 in the Chantry series, The Ferguson Rifle, which takes place in about the year, I'd say 1800. So kind of right after the Revolutionary War, and just when explorers were first starting to explore the West. You know, the old mountain men, you know, kind of with a musket loader mountain men, the trappers and stuff. This is what this book is about. And it's specifically about a musket loader back in the day that they called the Ferguson rifle. And it was like a musket loader, you know, you put the powder in and you tamp it down, and it's got a flintlock and it sparks. And one of the things about the flintlock rifles back then, especially the Ferguson rifle, was you'd aim it and shoot it, and that flintlock was right there by your eye, and it would explode. You know, I mean, the flints and the flint and the explosion with the gunpowder, and it's like you're taking a shot at somebody, but you're also causing a mini explosion right in your own face. And so it was kind of a hard gun to shoot and get used to, but a very, very valuable gun, which plays a part in this story. What's this story about? So this was the second ever Louis L'Amour book I ever read as a kid. The first one was The Californios, and you can see the review of that somewhere on my channel. But this was the second Louis L'Amour book I ever picked up as a kid. And I thought it was dynamite. What is it about? Let me read the back. It began with the gold that had once belonged to Montezuma, stolen and cached in a church in Mexico. It was recovered by 2 army officers who fled north towards the French settlements. Along the way, one stabbed the other one to death. The remaining officer was eventually killed by Plains Indians, but he buried the treasure just before he died. I love Louis L'Amour buried treasure stories. The Californios was about buried treasure, buried Spanish gold. And then the second novel I ever read as a kid that was a Louis L'Amour book was also about buried Spanish gold. I just assumed that all other 100 books that Louis L'Amour wrote would probably be about buried Spanish gold. They're not. Quite a few of them are. But I love the buried treasure stories that Louis L'Amour puts together. I think they're cool. I think they're dynamite. So I read this thing back when I was a kid in the 80s, living in southern Utah. And I haven't read it since, so I just reread it this time. So it's kind of good to go back to my youth. Now Roman Chantry and a handful of trappers and an Irish girl whose father was killed after telling her a few vague landmarks are searching for the lost Spanish treasure. But they are not alone. The girl's uncle, Rafe Falvey, wants it too. Like Chantry, he is well educated, bold, and determined. Under different circumstances, the two men might have been friends, but in all likelihood, it wouldn't have made any difference. When it comes to gold, even friendship doesn't keep men from killing each other. So yes, we've got all these people out searching for the Spanish gold. One of the great tropes of Louis L'Amour is the lost Spanish gold and the cowboys and whatnot out there finding it. Now, these books were taking place in the 1800, I think about right 1800, like right there in the mountain man heyday of musket loaders and all that, which I've already talked about. One of the things that Louis L'Amour wanted to do with his Chantry saga, like his Sackett saga, he wanted to meld the two sagas, and he never got the chance, but he wanted to, all the Chantry family tree, he wanted to have some of the characters from the Sackett books make their way into the Chantry saga. And I thought that would have, he never really got a chance to it, but he had an outline for a book where just such a thing happened. And I want to give a little writing advice, because I read some of the outline that he had for a book that he never got a chance to write, which would have tied together the Sackett saga and the Chantry saga. And in that outline, he says something very specific that I think is really great writing advice for all of you writers out there. So he wanted to take all the famous characters from his Sackett saga and all the famous characters from his Chantry saga, put them together, but he knew that these characters would all kind of like each other. They'd all kind of get along. Because they were all kind of noble men out doing the right thing in the West all the time. So he knew that if he did meld these two families together in some of these books, he was going to have to do something. And I want to show you something. So Louis L'Amour depicts Chantry as a man who intellectually understands America's independence, but lacks the commitment to the cause. Whereas the Sacketts, on the other hand, likely have a visceral desire for freedom, but a nearly complete distrust for any sort of government. So he's got noble characters, noble families on both sides, but they're noble for different reasons. And when he was starting to put together the outline and book for when he was going to put these two families together, he realized these families are likely going to get along because they have the same goals and ideals. But what I need to do is I need to have them come at their goals and ideas from different perspectives so I can create drama between these characters. So what he says, creating the dynamics between various characters is that they should be set up so that their conflicts reveal the things a writer needs to express in order to tell a story. In other words, he's like, these people are going to get along for the most part, but I've got to create conflicts within them. And so what I'll do is I'll create sort of a political difference between the two. So if two or more characters are aligned in their goals, both noble, both wanting to do the right thing, they should be as different as possible in their methods and personalities and their backgrounds. This creates the sort of tension that moves a plot forward and allows for exposition in a natural manner. When I read that little bit of his outline for one of the books that he never wrote, I was like, you know what? I talk about that in my writing advice videos all the time. Create tension. Every scene you have has to have tension between the characters, even if those characters like each other. So I probably might do a writing advice video just based off of things that Louis L'Amour has taught us throughout his career, and his notes that he kept. Anyway, what did I think of the Ferguson rifle? I liked it. like I said, I love the Louis L'Amour trope of the lost Spanish gold and all sorts of people out there killing each other to find it. It's dynamite storytelling stuff. And so I give the Ferguson rifle a, like I said, I haven't read this since I was a kid. I didn't remember a whole lot about it other than that the Ferguson rifle was very important and nobody wanted to lose it and that they were searching for gold. And so I give the Ferguson rifle, book number 2 in the Chantry series, I give it about a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really, really solid Western, and I think anybody that loves Louis L'Amour would enjoy it. And of the 2 book covers, man, I think I like them both about equal. I think I like them both about equal. This is a fantastically beautiful painting, but so is the Manches painting too.